Hi, in this Lightboard session we're going to talk about using the database connector to get data out of a database. Now, as part of using the database connector, you first up have to add that dependency to your project, like other connectors, like the HTTP connector. And then you need to configure which database you're going to use. And you do that through a combination of telling it the address to get to the database, so the URL, other connection parameters. So if you're using a secure connection, there might be trust stores and key stores. And then next up, you need to include a driver into your project as well. Now, the driver is important, and those of you from a non-Java background might not be aware of how JDBC works, but for each database, they have a specific JDBC driver. That does the over-the-wire communication, and that is critical for a Java application to be able to talk to the database. Now, Mule sits on top of Java, so if we were making use of the database select operator, for instance, it needs to know some database config stuff and things like the URL and the driver. Now, the driver itself, that needs to be in that dependency that you add into the project. So the underlying code here is going to call the JDBC driver. And that's specific to Oracle, Postgres, MySQL, and so on. And then it does the translation over the transport protocol, authenticates, and essentially runs whatever select command that you have in this case. Okay, it gets back the data, comes back up here, and then that continues on as part of your Mule event structure. Now, in our code so far, we've been talking about using the database connector to run a select that brought back all of the rows. That would be great if all we ever needed to do was pull back all rows from a table. But in most cases, we're going to want to filter down the number of rows so that we only return a subset. Now, to do that, we start off with our query as per normal. So we've got our select star from whatever the table name is. And then, as part of your query, you can then filter it down by using a where clause. Now, if you have a fixed value that you need to put in here, so you're filtering on only a certain value, you could put that in there, but we want to have ours as something that can be fed in as part of our code. So what we're going to do is do a parameter substitution into our query. So if I had column 1 in here, then I could set that to a placeholder. So placeholders begin with a colon and a name. Now that name needs to be fed in a map immediately below the query. So we've got a box for the query, and in the user interface, immediately below it, there'll be a spot to put some values. Now, what goes in this box is a bit of data weave. Now, data weave allows you to create structures, create strings, and so on. So we need to create a structure that has whatever substitution parameters that we have here, whatever these names are, those will be the keys inside this map. So in order to create a map or a structure, we need to put in curly brackets and then take this name and use that as the key in here. So in this case, it's col value. And then wherever this value needs to come from. It could be coming from variables, it could be coming from payload. It's up to you what part of the Mule event structure it comes from. But in this case, I'll assume it's in variables. So I'll go vars.myval. All right, and what that will do is take that value, substitute it in safely so that you don't fall prey to SQL injection into your query, and use that as part of your query. And that's how you'd use parameterized inputs into an SQL query.